Hi Queens, Sam here. I hope that you're doing amazing. Listen, a house is not an investment. Let me say this again. A house is not an investment. Listen, we live in a society where there is such a push to home ownership that I truly think right now it's becoming crazy. Like crazy. People are getting into home ownership, not even, be clear on why they're buying a house, just because they've been told by the relatives, by the friends, by the colleagues that, at their age, at their level of salary, whatever, that they need to buy a house. First of all, as you know, except if you'll be living under a rock, housing right now in North America is through the roof. Like, housing is so expensive. And at the same time, people are trying to sell their houses and nobody wants to buy them for the most part because it's expensive and the rates are high. So buyers are almost like, sitting on the sideline waiting for, I'm not sure what, but the reality is like right now, we have like overpriced houses, high interest rate, and buyers who may or may not be able to afford house, but still you hear about the push of people getting into housing. Before I get into it and I share my piece about that whole thing of people thinking that a house is an investment, I'm going to say something here. Full disclosure, I do own my own house. I've owned my own house for, I guess, 13 years now, 12, 13 years. But I have no business owning a house. And everybody who knows me knows that I have no business owning a house because the reality is I hate the whole home maintenance, and I actually bought a condo townhouse, so I have to deal with like the condo corporation. I'm paying condo fees. There are like restrictions on things you can do with your own house, with your own space, not inside but like more outside, the landscape, all of those things are like you have to keep the landscape a certain way that is costing you money. Like it there, it comes with restrictions. But the reason why I bought a house for me in my mind was not because I was like betting on that house increasing in price. Of course, over the years, it has increased in price. But as you guys know, I'm coast fi today. I have a fully funded retirement. And in that, when I did my calculation, I did not account for my house equity because I don't know, maybe by the time I decide to sell the house, there could be a housing crash like the one we went through in 2008. There could be anything. But one thing that I want that I know is like most likely, the stock market, yes, there are ups and downs, but I will take my chances with the stock market any day than taking my chances with the housing market. That's just what it is. Because even in terms of risk, diversify when you have like all of your your net worth, your liquid, like your investment, it's not even liquid, your investment into your equity in your house, because literally you have to do something with that house to have access to the cash. So anyway, so I have been owning my house for more than 20 years. I bought the house mainly because I was looking for a 3 bedrooms, 2 bathroom place because I had my sibling with me at the time, who were going to be living with me while they were going to university, and I was looking for a rental. Unfortunately, in the area that I'm living at the time, I couldn't find anything that I was pleased with. And yes, I knew at my, with the savings that I had at the time, the income that I had at the time, that I could get approved for a mortgage. So I just went for a house. I just like, I bought the house. I'm like, listen, I'm just gonna buy it. We're gonna use it for the time we were supposed to use it. But I was not seeing myself living in that house for so long, for this long, to be quite honest with you, because eventually I was hoping to meet, my partner and then get married. And the reality is like right now my house is becoming very small for my 3 kids because I don't have a decent outdoor space. Like the backyard is very small, and for adults it's fine because we don't need to be spending that much time in the backyard, at least not my family. That's not something we do. But like for kids, they like to go out and play. So luckily I have parks around my house and we go to parks a lot. But again, you need to get ready with those kids, go to the park, versus if I've had a bigger backyard, I could just let the kids out, they could play there, we don't need to go anywhere. So in my mind, when I was buying, I wasn't thinking that long term, because for me, I was buying for a certain reason, for a purpose, which is essentially having a place for my siblings to live with me while they were going to university. And it served that purpose for 10 plus years, like, 10 years. My siblings lived here with me, they went to university, they graduated, and then they moved out on their own. I ended up staying by myself and then started my family by myself. Now I have three young kids and I'm living with them in this house. Like I say, so far it's okay, but I'm seeing already some limitation to the house. And so when I bought the house, I wasn't like, oh, this is great because that's gonna make me a millionaire. And that's what I would like for people not to think, because you need to keep in mind that when you're buying a house, essentially it's a lifestyle decision. It's not an investment. And I agree. Over the years, the housing market has done phenomenal in North America. And so a lot of boomers today and Gen X are sitting on like a lot of equity in their houses. But guess what? To access that equity, you need to do something with it. You need to, get a loan against it. You need to sell it. You need to do something that is going to impact your life. Versus when it's like your portfolio of investment, you go ahead, you sell your ETFs, or like your whatever, your bonds. It doesn't impact your day to day. You don't have to pack your stuff and move. So the reason why, essentially, when people say, oh, I need to buy a house is an investment. An investment makes you money. A house doesn't make you money. Anyone who owns a house and is telling you that it makes money, you need to sit them down and they have to walk you through, how is the house making you money. Listen, I look at my budget every month. You pay mortgage, you pay property taxes. In my case, I pay condo fees. I'm gonna pay maintenance. I'm gonna pay assurance, insurance in this case. Like all of those things that adds up so quickly, and you just have to hope that essentially uh, nothing breaks, though something's gonna break, essentially. But I hopefully that it's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg, and that's why you need to be very cognizant, when you have a house, to have an emergency fund, even if it's a small $500, $1,000, whatever, for house maintenance, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When you have a house and when you have a car, those things are gonna have an issue at one point, which is gonna require you to fork out some money, right? So that's what it is. So when people are getting the push, you need to buy a house, you need to buy a house, you need to ask them, why exactly do you think that I need to buy a house? Because especially when you're not convinced about it, like, don't go ahead and buy a house and then find yourself house poor, right? Because you don't have even the cash. Like, once everything is paid for the house, you don't have the cash for your day to day. You don't have the cash to enjoy your life. But I think there's more to life to just like be paying mortgage. I don't think that essentially renting is a bad thing. I've rented for years and years and years before buying. And when I actually move abroad, I'm going to be selling this house, happily selling this house. And wherever I'm going to be renting. I'm ready for that. Like, I've done the whole homeownership and all of those things. I've gone to general meetings of my condo association, and people be sitting there and talking about things. Like, I'm like, is this all life is about? Right? Like, who park their car in the visitor parking when they're not allowed to, and then someone is complaining about the tree in the backyard, and I'm like, no, no. I think my time should be used for more than this. And so, no, I'll be renting, and as soon as there is something in the house, I'll pick up the phone and call the landlord, like, Mr. or Mrs. Landlord, such and such happened, please come and fix it. And they'll come and fix it. I don't need to be doing anything about it. And so this whole push in this society in North America, where we having people being so gung-ho on owning a house, and almost we relate to people like, we determine the worth of people based on whether they own a place, they own their own place, or they don't own their own place. And that's actually a true statement. Like, I have a good girlfriend of mine, and she'll be on online dating, all of those sites, and some men will be asking her. At the time, she was still living with her parents, because she was like in between jobs and everything, and she just moved back home in her home city. And so, men will be asking her, oh yeah, like, do you own, like, do you rent? And she'll be like, oh no, I'm staying with my parents for now. No, no. And they will literally not be like, stop talking to her on the app. After that, she'll give them that answer. And sometimes, she will go all the way to meeting the guy, but like, and through discussions, you will see that essentially the guy was uncomfortable with her being in her 30s and not owning her own place and being at home. And I'm like, what is wrong with that? Listen, she did that for a few years where she was at her parents' place. Now she's a happy homeowner. She owns her own place. She's gonna pay off her mortgage way faster than all of those guys who didn't want to talk to her just because she was living at her place. And again, her value to me should not be determined based on the fact that she owns her place. Oh no, like, what are we doing? What is this society has become? It's terrible. It is terrible. And so all of those young people out there that are feeling stranded, right? They're feeling stranded because now they're like, oh, the housing is so expensive. Renting is like throwing money out of the window. And I'm like, what is wrong with renting? And when you think about it, when all of those young people, you see them, you ask them, but why do you want to buy a place? Why and why and why? Most of them is because their parents are telling them, because they've seen their colleagues, they're doing the same. Their friends from college, from when they were like at university or college, are doing the same. They're not really thinking it through, like, is ownership in line with how I want to live my life? Because if I had to think about, how I wanted to live my life when I bought this place, I wouldn't have bought the place. Because it did not provide the flexibility that I needed. Because when you buy a place and you own a place, whether you want it or not, it's very difficult to just like pack up and leave versus when you're renting. And so knowing that I really wanted to have a life where I could actually go live in this country for 2 years, go live in this city for 3 years and whatnot, that's not conducive to owning a place. It's not, right? But I bought this place for another purpose at the time, and it served that purpose. And so you need to make that whole um, that whole introspection, and really sit yourself and ask yourself, why do I want to buy a house? A house is not an investment, I'm telling you. And so many times people, they talk about it like I'm a net worth millionaire. You're a net worth millionaire, but like half of your million sits in your equity in your house. I'm sorry. To me, that's an issue. If 50% or plus of your net worth is in house equity, that means that for you to have access to that, you need to get a mortgage, you need to get a HELOC, you need to get maybe a reverse mortgage. And so there is something that you need to do that is gonna impact your life, maybe cause you some additional expenses just for you to have access to that equity, right? And so I'm very big on looking into financial planning things right now, very interested on how people are really planning for their next step in life, the retirement and whatnot. And again, there is such a strong focus on like or on the house equity. And in my mind, it's always like, oh, they can sell their house down the road in 20-30 years and buy a cheaper house. Does anyone know how much houses are gonna cost in like 5 years, 10 years? Nobody knows that. And again, to me, I rather take my chances with the stock market than like, you know, counting on the fact that in 20 years from now I can just sell my house and buy something cheaper. I could maybe buy something cheaper, but is it gonna be really what I want? Is that gonna incur me, additional expenses? I don't know, right? So I rather have people focusing on just what they have in terms of liquid investment when it comes to your net worth, and especially when we're talking about you reaching financial freedom, because you really don't want to actually be basing, like your worth. Honestly, you don't want your worth to be like such a big, like, I guess you don't want your house equity to be such a big portion of your net worth. And I'm not sure if there is Mona. So Mona, I interviewed her on the platform here on my channel, and her channel is Single Parent Fire. And I think it's every month, or I think it's every month. She does like a net worth update. And one thing that she's been doing since she bought her place is that she has maintained the value of her place as such. So let's say she bought the place at 400,000. If you look at it, the value that she put for her place, it's 400,000. And so the reason why she does that is because, of course, she wants to reach fire, and she wants to make sure that essentially her reaching fire, there is no like a house equity that's going to be actually influencing that. Because if she reaches fire in terms of like, the numbers, but like, let's say let's say a million, but like again, 500 or 600,000 is a house equity, then she needs to make some changes to her life to make that happen. And so I find it's a very brilliant way to do it. And I kind of like did that also almost unconsciously, because I wasn't even thinking about my house equity when I was focusing on me, reaching my number for cost fi. I wasn't thinking about my house equity. Of course, when I sell the place next year, I might not get as much as I want, but I'll definitely get something that is decent because I've owned the place for so long, and I've been paying on my mortgage, as much as I could. Sometimes making some extra payments, and so I know I'm gonna get something decent. But again, that is coming like as a gravy for me, right? I wasn't counting on that, and so I found that Mona, the way she does it, it's great, because then when she's seeing her net worth increasing, she knows that we're talking about liquid investments, either pre-tax or after tax. It's liquid investment that she can access easily without having a difference in her life, on a day-to-day life. So again, when people tell you go get a house is a good investment, a house is not investment. As a matter of fact, a house is a liability. Hear me out. It's a liability because it's going to cost you money. Something that costs you money, that doesn't make you money, it's a liability. A car is a liability. A trailer is a liability. A boat is a liability. Except if it's some sort of collectibles or whatnot, and you have the market for that, the value, that's different. But this whole society of having people pushing them, you need to get a car, you need to get a house. Who's paying for all that? You are paying for it. And you're putting your financial future in jeopardy, because all of your net worth is tied into a house, not so much into a car, because we all know those things depreciate like crazy. So there you have it. So this was a video to remind people out there, a house is not investment. It is not. So feel free to say otherwise in the comments, or tell me what you think about it. But I really think that we need to start having this kind of conversation, because one thing that I feel is going to happen is, like, in 20-30 years, people will be regretting. They'll be having so much mortgage. The same way people are complaining today about having so much student loan. They'll be having so much mortgage loan debt. They'll be like, why did I have to do that to myself? Like, people are having, big student loans today, and they're like, I don't even need to get that much student loan to do what I want, because the reality is, like, less than, 70% of people, they go into working in the field that they haven't studied in. So 70% of people who got a degree in a field end up not working in that field. In the meantime, you have gotten the student loan. So what's the point? Same thing with the house. You need to. So there's, like, some people are born to be business owners, and some people are born to be great employees. There's nothing wrong with being an employee. So I'm sorry, not everybody can be owning a house. Not everybody can be renters. But you need to decide what is it for yourself, and that could change depending on where you are in your life stage. Maybe when you're younger, you're renting, and then in the middle you own, and then eventually you rent again. Nothing wrong with that, but what do you want? That's really what's important. You need to do that exercise. Thank you for listening to me. I really wanted to do this video because I hope that's gonna help free someone out there, free a Black woman out there, to be like, no, sorry, I'm not buying a house. I'm fine the way I am right now. I'm gonna stack my coins, rent and stack my coins into the stock market, and build wealth that I know it's tangible that way. That's the way I see it. So thank you again for listening. Don't forget to like, and also subscribe to the channel. Share with anyone that you feel will definitely benefit from hearing a little bit of tough love when it comes to ownership, home ownership here. And let me know in the comments. I'm very open to having a great discussion about this whole thing of, housing market and home ownership. Looking forward to reading your comments below. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep on building wealth.